Do you own crypto? Any Bitcoin or Ethereum? Would you play around with this?
I do. Yeah, I think it's reasonable to own it as a part of a diversified portfolio. And I'm not giving anybody investment advice, by the way.
When did you get interested in it?
I've been interested in it for a while, and I've been researching it and so forth. And so I think it's interesting.
Less. It's also different because this isn't exclusive. Amazon is investing in Anthropic. This is a chat GPT or OpenAI rival up to $4 billion, so significantly less. It's also different because this isn't exclusive. Anthropic also has a partnership and an investment from Google. So it's sort of spreading it out. And that's sort of Amazon's strategy as well. They have said in the past that there's not going to be one model to rule it all. And so it hasn't released one chatbot that consumers can interact with. Instead, it's Amazon's strategy in generative AI has been more on the developer side. So it's providing developers with tools to build their own chatbots. Another key part of Amazon's strategy that the company really says is its edge is its custom AI chips. There's two of them, and as part of this collaboration, Kelly, the company says that Anthropic is going to be training its foundational models on these chips. That's a big vote of confidence for them, but I will say I wish there was more details. We don't know how much Anthropic is going to be leaning on those custom AI chips that Amazon is making versus an NVIDIA GPU, which we know are still far and away the most dominant and seen as the best chips on the market to develop generative AI applications.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And you know I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Support this great content by hitting the cash app and by joining the Patreon.
And guys, we have Tim Cook states that he owns crypto. It's interesting. And guys, we know why it's interesting, because it's for the fourth industrial revolution. And he is definitely leading this digital transformation. Now we have the auto strike going on, and we had no mainstream media report on it today. Even though we have Biden going tomorrow, and then we have Trump going on Wednesday, there just hasn't been a lot of media attention on it. We've been getting more media attention on the government shutdown than the average American worker on strike. And like I stated, this strike is going to affect everybody nationwide. And if the government shuts down, guys, we know there's a bigger plan behind it. We know this is part of the event, and then we can start piecing the puzzles together. With higher interest rates, higher yield rates, higher inflation, the government definitely should be working together to keep it open. But remember, guys, this is nothing but the Hegelian dialectic. They know the United States dollar is about to fall. So America can no longer spend the type of money it's spending, and then plus they have to get us moved over to the fourth industrial revolution, where the robots, algorithms, and drones take the economy over, pay each other with crypto, and the sheep go inside the metaverse. And speaking of AI is going to be taking over the medical field. And you guys know I can't say what I want to say. I'm going to be doing a Patreon video for this. We know AI is creating medicine. We know these robots can take care of the patient. Remember, the NWO moves in phases. They'll start in certain segments and then move along in the whole industry. And guys, the only thing you have to do is go to your local grocery store. There was probably only 2 or 3 self-checkouts. Now just about the whole place is self-checkout. So we clearly see technology moving in, but we don't account for all the jobs that were lost. And that's what the NWO is banking on. Remember, they cause a problem, wait for the reaction, and run in with the solution. And we already saw the test being done. They're going to airdrop you that free money, telling you what, where, when, and how to buy, and you have 3 to 6 months to spend it, or poof, it's gone. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows. When it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Good morning, George. It's an extraordinary week here, day 10 of this strike. As you say, President Biden, both presidential frontrunners are going to be here to stand with striking auto workers. Biden's coming tomorrow, and he'll be on the picket line, a president on the picket line. That's something no president has done in living memory. And Donald Trump He'll be here on Wednesday to give a speech to about 500 union workers and other supporters. That's a sign of how much the Republican Party has changed under Trump.
Scenario like that either. So Republicans that are holdouts right now, do they have less to lose by holding out?
Well, yeah, there's just not much it's easier to shut down the government than have a debt ceiling breach. Speaker McCarthy made a decision to cut a bipartisan deal to get the procedural votes on the debt ceiling. And this one, he just doesn't have to. And the conservative vote and the conservatives can hold out. Each day that goes by while we're shut down, they're going to lose their leverage. And the way I would explain it is a shutdown could actually bring more government spending, higher levels of appropriations, more Ukraine aid, more disaster aid. So it actually works against the conservative interests for what they're trying to achieve on a policy objective if you go into a shutdown. But hey, once every 10 years, we have this shutdown just so people can kind of put out their complaints, and then we'll wind up figuring out a way to reopen the government in the next couple of weeks or so.
Dan, what's magic about a couple of weeks in your view? Is that because that's historically how long they've lasted?
Yeah, I mean, there's a rhythm to it. People talk about 2019 being 35 days, but it was only a 25% shutdown. It was about the equivalent of an 8-day shutdown. What happens is congressional staffers, Carl, don't get paid, right? So they start putting pressure on their bosses. Services start going down, and you start getting complaints from your constituents. And it's sort of a pointless exercise that you're going through. And I think you come to those sort of realizations. In 2013, we had this huge catalyst behind it, which was we had to raise the debt ceiling, and we were going to do everything at once. Today, you don't have that. So you can laugh on this for weeks. But think about where we are politically. You have midterm elections coming up in Virginia. Virginia's going to be very impacted by this government shutdown. You also have the president of the United States polling numbers very, very bad. So the Republicans are creating an opportunity for Biden to restake the offensive of the agenda. You don't want this going on too long. And then my final point is that the rating agencies have been downgrading on process. I don't agree with that personally, Carl. But if you're talking about process and you bring Moody's in, then you don't want this to last longer and start having a credit watch.
Feel great for sentiment.
That's really, I think, Courtney, that's exactly right. It doesn't feel great. So if you talk to somebody that has student debt, they haven't had to start paying it yet. But if you ask them if they've adjusted their budget on the fear of paying it, they have. And their credit card rates all those things are there. But that's why the average stock's down 29% from its 52-week high. More than almost 55%, according to my friends at Ned Davis, of NYSE stocks are down more than 20%. So some of that is going to be discounted. There's really three phrases of this game as you talk about economic weakness. There's when good news is bad news because it means a tighter Fed. We got that in 2022. Then you get good news or bad news is good news because it means the Fed's going to stop. We were in that into the summer of this year where the market had rallied over 20% off the low. But then you ultimately have to get, unless there's a dramatic, significant, sustainable improvement in those three areas of credit, you ultimately got to get into that bad news is bad news. And that's when you want to look to take advantage of the opportunity. So, Gordy, going back to what Carl suggested, that I've been defensive for a while, yeah, we call it light and tight. We want extra cash, not extraordinarily defensive, because we want to be in a position to take advantage of a whoosh or some kind of economically fear-based swoon that's likely to come when you're having, historically high margins. Expectations for earnings, I think, for next year are out of whack too high. And the earnings yield in the S&P 500 is roughly equivalent to a risk-free rate. That's when you want to get prepared to attack the market, not to actually just jump right in.
And our next guest's latest piece provides a roadmap of how AI could be integrated into healthcare, given current regulations. Let's bring in former FDA Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb. He is now a board member with Illumina, continuing, and Pfizer, and a CNBC contributor. Thanks for joining us. I could break it down. Remember when we used to have to do a paper, Scott, in school? I hated it, but you try to do an outline. Aren't there I could come up with 8 different areas of healthcare where AI could be used. Not just, drug discovery, it'd be amazing on what you can do there. But drug-drug interactions when you're getting prescribed by doctors, where you could worry about that, or billing, or, a million different things. What's your take that you're talking about in this latest paper? What would it help with solving?
Yeah, look, AI is making broad penetration into healthcare, particularly in drug discovery, as you mentioned, and in things like clinical decision support software or machine learning. So clinical decision support software may alert physicians, prompt physicians related to drug-drug interactions, like you mentioned. In machine learning applications, you're seeing broad use in areas like radiology and pathology, where these AI tools are trained on closed data sets to do pattern recognition. There's more than 500 cleared medical devices by FDA. I think the challenge and what this article is about is trying to integrate large language models into healthcare in a way that they interface directly with patients without a physician in the chain of decision-making. That's going to be a very hard hurdle to get over from a regulatory standpoint. And the question is, where are you going to try to penetrate first? If you're a developer of a large language model, you want to be able to develop a tool, a medical device that's regulated by FDA that interacts directly with patients and makes recommendations to those patients. And I think the place to look first, what this article talks about, is places where the interaction with the large language model can augment the interactions with the physician and not replace it. So you're basically allowing touches to patients, input from patients, and guidance back to patients that wouldn't happen but for these AI models. So think, for example, of a doctor visit. Before you go see the doctor, you may interact with a large language model, and that model will help make decisions about whether or not it's going to make adjustments in your medications or send you for certain laboratory testing in advance of that physician visit, so that the doctor's visit is going to be a higher productivity encounter. So the large language model has done some advanced work. Or follow-up for patients, where follow-up just isn't happening under the current system because you don't have enough manpower. That's where I would be looking first to get these large language models regulated as medical devices that could interface directly with patients and give guidance back to patients.
It's interesting, and that's the case that's made for a lot of different uses of AI, that it doesn't displace the person. It actually makes the person more productive. And it's not like you don't need specialists with more time on their hands, because it's like, if you try to make an appointment to do anything, Scott, it's mind-boggling. They go, okay, yeah, it looks like, how's February 18th look? Seriously, if you try to make an appointment today, it might be February or March. So you're hoping you're alive.
Yeah, look, these tools can definitely give providers a productivity lift across the spectrum. Again, I think the challenge is going to be getting them regulated by FDA as medical devices, so that you don't need to have a physician in the loop of the guidance that's coming back to the consumer, to the patient, from the large language model. The reason why machine learning devices have been approved by FDA is because they're trained on closed data sets, like a radiology device or a pathology device, where you're training them on a known data set where, for example, the radiology scans may be correlated with known outcomes. So the FDA has more confidence there that the devices themselves are going to produce reproducible results. They're going to be accurate because they have confidence in the fidelity of the training sets. With a large language model that's being trained on the totality of the information available, the FDA has much less confidence that the language model itself wasn't trained on data that may have mistakes in it, errors. So you're going to have to introduce these large language models in certain narrow use cases where the outcome of variability isn't going to be as grave, and where it's augmenting what's already going on in the healthcare marketplace.
Wow. Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. with triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of a huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Crypto Teacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing they were still getting that free money, what are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Drama Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Drama Tam save New York from COVID Stories 3. Part 3. King Joshua and Drama Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.